Guys, welcome back. I'm MeiLani Hock. Welcome to Why Not Me B&B. We are cruising. Guys, thanks for being with me because you have learned so much great stuff. You guys are almost ready to rock the Airbnb world and be superheroes that you are, but I don't want you to burn out. So many Airbnb hosts, they get it up and running and then they keep on doing it on their own and they burn out. So we are going to talk about how to turn it passive and how to set up your team and how to scale your business so that you can not only grow your business, but that you can also enjoy your life. Remember, if you go back to my why, it's all about my time with my family, with my kids, doing the things we love, traveling, my time, my passive income, and also not putting my livelihood at risk. So let's jump in. As a reminder, your success is up to you. Make sure that you are doing your own research and that you are running your numbers on your own, okay? But like I said, we definitely want to help everything we can to make sure that you're on the path to success and that you are becoming the superstar that we know that you can be, okay? So we've talked about a lot of these things. Like I said, we're on number 5 and 6 and 7. We're going to talk about building your team and hosting and scaling. So let's jump right in and talk about building your team. Now, when people will always ask, well, do I have to do it locally? Do I have to have my property be local? And my answer is, well, there's two different ways that I sometimes answer. Once I know the people, I know how to gauge this better, but there's two answers. One is I recommend you doing the first by your house locally within a half hour or whatever it is, so you can get the systems going. However, if you are somebody that wants to make it passive as fast as possible, what better way to start in a destination location where you would literally have to walk on a plane to go and take care of it? Now, I've talked a lot about my parents, my best students, but I'm gonna use them as an example again right now. So my parents, when they first got going, they travel a lot, and they were in California and had to be in Arizona the next week. But their first Airbnb is in North Carolina, and so after their trip to California, I was talking to my mom and I said, "Oh, so when are you coming back to North Carolina?" And she said, "Oh, well, I think I'm gonna come back tomorrow, and then I'll fly back the next day to go to Arizona." I was like, "Why on earth?" And she's like, "Oh, I just need to make sure that the cleaning ladies did it right." Yeah, what a waste of time. And I was like, "Mom, you cannot come all the way back here." "Well, yeah, but what if they don't?" No joke. I really want them to make sure that they put the soaps where I want them to put them. Okay, first off, she didn't listen because she was supposed to take a picture of that and put it in the maid closet. Also, another way to check up on this is simply ask your cleaning lady, "Hey, will you send me a picture of these 5 things every time you clean my house?" You can do that. If you still want that type of control, set up a system that's not wasting your time and your life to make sure things are effective. Every time they do a cleaning, have them message you to say done, so that you know every single time they're done that they have cleaned, so that you don't have to worry about maybe a cleaning, somebody is arriving at midnight and you don't want them to call you at midnight and be like, "Oh, this place isn't clean." Just in case that ever happens, you don't want to have to go to bed wondering if they're going to get in okay or whatever it is. You've got to set up a plan B, which is having your cleaning team text you every single time or message you if you want that. So just some ideas to think about that. So you choose if you want to do your first locally or if you want to do it at a destination. But make sure that you are setting up systems so it's not taking up your life, because we do not want you to burn out, okay? So if you do a destination, the two set of boots on the ground that you need is you need a handyman and you need a cleaning crew that you can trust, okay? Now, this cleaning crew can't be a one-man show, because if you have multiple properties, they're not going to be able to change over 10 properties on a Sunday morning between 11 and 3 or whatever you have, okay? So you need to have a cleaning crew that is not a one-man show, but also it doesn't need to be a 100-man show either. It doesn't need to be one of those really expensive ones either. So try to find a cleaning crew that maybe has 3 cars but is looking to grow. If they have their own shirts, that means they're in it to win it. They're in it to build their business. So just look, magnets on the car, but then look and see if their cleaning team is wearing t-shirts. That's how I find my cleaning teams. They're serious about growing their business enough that they've created shirts. They're not so big that they're sending direct mail or anything like that. So just find a good fit for you and interview your cleaning team. Also, make sure you have a good handyman and a backup handyman. So just in case, worst case scenario, whatever happens, you've got a number that you can call. No, even if you're not there, they can take care of those things, okay? As I've mentioned, my goal is only to go back to my properties once per year. Once per year. That's to make sure that it's still at my level of hospitality. But other than that, my cleaning crew and my handyman can take care of everything else. We're going to talk about that more in just a little bit. Okay, so the others that are members of your team but don't need to be boots on the ground that you need to make sure that you have are your bookkeeper and CPA. Somebody to do your quarterly check-ins. For me, this is always my cleaning crew. I check them. I have them do my inventory and my quarterly check-ins. A front desk manager that handles all the communication with your guests. An insurance agent that understands how unique our situation is and what we do. And also a good attorney, just in case worst comes to worst, whatever happens, you've got them on board, okay? So these are other members of your team that you won't be as involved with, but are important to have. And you don't need to have them locally. You can have them local to the property. You can have them whatever you use across the nation, okay? Now, we talked a little bit about finding your cleaning team, but with your cleaning team, I want to make sure that you go over a couple items. One is that you need a detailed contract, a very detailed contract. Some people just say, oh yeah, I use my cleaning team and it's a great relationship. You need to have a contract that protects you. If they forget to do a cleaning, if you get a report of, I don't know, the last guest left dirty panties in my drawer. Whatever it is, you're going to get docked for that. So you need to be able to dock your cleaning team on whatever it is. Okay, so you have a contract, not that binds you to working with them forever and ever, but a contract of, I'm going to use you for all of these properties, and in return, I expect this. If you don't show up, 3 strikes, you're out. If there's three strikes, you're done. You will not work for us anymore. A consequence of if you get a complaint about different things, then there's a dollar amount that I put in my contract with each of those items. Whatever it is for you, okay? Now, in our full course, we give you access to that. If you're interested, reach out to us at whynotmeBnB.com. We'll give you a good deal on the full course or any of our checklists and stuff like that. But just make sure, if you're not using ours, that's fine. Just make sure you have something in place to protect you with your cleaning team. Also, make sure that you give them a W-9, that you get one from them, so that you can be smart about when preemptive on your taxes, okay? Now, also, you're going to have those checklists with posted pictures inside your inside the maid closet, so that they know exactly what your expectations are. So if you have a complaint that it's not up to that standard, for instance, in my expectations, I expect every time the cleaning team to leave for the remote control to be set directly in front of the TV. In the early years, I kept on getting messages. I can't find the remote control. I can't find the remote control. Okay. So we changed that. And now if I ever get asked, where's the remote control? I charge my cleaning team because they didn't put it exactly where I wanted it. Okay. So the only way for your cleaning team to do what you want them to do is for you to tell them what you want them to do, okay? To set that expectations, and a contract will help you do that, okay? And you're continually adding to that, like the remote controller, whatever it is, okay? Also, with each property, you can choose if you're going to use a laundry service or if you are going to have them do your laundry. For most of my properties, I have them do the laundry. I have the guest that checks out. They start the first load. By the time the cleaning team gets there, they move it over. They start the second load. Now, with the bigger properties, you're going to have to be a little more creative with this and use a laundry service or have a laundry space that will allow you to be running 2 washers at a time. So something to think about with that. Also, you need to be checking their work at the beginning, especially when you're starting to work with them, and then every once in a while after that. So if they're local, I have them come and clean my house so that they know my expectations. If they didn't mop well, I have them come back and do it. If they didn't dust well, I have them come back and do it so that I can train them on my own house of my expectations. Also, I do surprise visits in the first 3 weeks after they've started. And they don't know which time I'm going to go, but I go and inspect to make sure that they are up to the standards that we have talked about. So surprise visits in the early days are good also. And then occasionally after that, if you're in town or local. Okay, so just a couple quick tips on that. All right. Now, checklists are super important. We have checklists for a lot of different things. We have a weekly cleaning checklist. We have quarterly. We have inventory that my team is in charge. My cleaning team is in charge of going through each of these things. I love checklists. Like I said before, I have a move-in day checklist. I have all sorts of checklists that we use. And we encourage you to, if you don't use ours, that's fine. But make sure you are creating your own system to run it, okay? Now, like I said before, how can they be what you want them to be unless you tell them what that is that you want them to be? So make sure if your cleaning team is not doing what you want them to do, how much of that is because you haven't explained it well enough? Take ownership as a manager. Take ownership as the owner of this company. If you haven't trained them right, they're not going to meet your expectations because they don't know them. So make sure you are communicating clearly with your cleaning team what you want them to do. Okay, next, let's talk about how we can even further turn it passive, okay? I use a service called Guesty, but there are lots of them out there. You can look for a lot of them out there. Now, I mentioned before that every single guest should get at least 5 messages from you, plus a review. So, 5 messages plus 1 review times, let's say 10 guests a month. That is about 60 messages per property per month. Now, 60 messages per property per month per property times, let's say you have 10 properties. That's about 600 messages that you're looking at sending. That is ridiculous, you guys. That is crazy. That is going to take over your life. This doesn't even cover when they message you and say, hey, thanks so much. Love the house. What's the Wi-Fi password? Y'all, it does not matter if you have messaged them the Wi-Fi password 3 times. It does not matter if you've put it on a billboard inside the house. They will message you and they will say, what's the Wi-Fi password? So all of these different communication things that you try your best to eliminate the need for them to ask, but they will. And that's okay. That's one of the beauties of Airbnb hosting is they feel like they can communicate with their front desk staff directly from their phone. But as a host, you don't want it to take over your life. When I'm sitting watching my kids on stage in a play, I don't want to have to be distracted and have to be attached to my phone. When I go away with my husband, y'all, we love our time away. We love our kids, but we love our little couples getaway. I don't want to have to be worried about someone being locked out. So with an option like Guesty, you're able to completely turn it passive, to set up a system so that you do not burn out, okay? The reason why I use that example of me and my husband once in the early days, we were on a getaway and I got a call that they were locked out and I was like, oh my gosh, what if I have to drive all the way back? And it was like 1 o'clock in the morning because they had been out at a wedding and just got home and they were locked out. And I was like, please don't make me drive back right now for 5 hours. Or I started thinking, okay, what else could I do? I could pay for them to go to a hotel room because I'm not driving back there and blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking about it. And then like my brain started to wake up and it's like, oh wait, you've prepared for this. You've got a plan B. Plan B is I have a hidden lockbox somewhere else on the property with an emergency key. Okay, so you have a plan B, but you don't even want to have to communicate with them about it. If you use a service like Guesty, they can do all of that communication for you. So when somebody's locked out, when somebody wants the Wi-Fi password, when someone says, I love the kind of toilet paper you use, can you tell me what it is? Whatever it is, they can communicate and you don't have to, okay? Now let's talk about it a little bit deeper, okay? So Guesty, there are 2 different levels. Okay, the first level does autoresponders. It also has automatic messaging and automatic reviews. Okay, so if you're an Airbnb host, you know what all those mean. But I'm just blown away that Airbnb doesn't have these yet. But an autoresponder or an auto message is those, you know how I said each guest you're going to want to message at least 5 times. Well, those automatically send them. You know, you can set it up 24 hours before they check in. Here, just a reminder, here's your check-in information. Here's your Wi-Fi password. Here's everything else you're going to need for your stay. Here's where to park, blah, 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 blah. After they check in, hey, how's it going? I hope you're enjoying your stay. Let us know if you need anything. 6 hours before checkout, just a reminder, we would love for you to strip the beds and start the first load of laundry. Thanks so much for staying. 5 different messages. And in our course, we go into detail about the template about those, but whatever it is for you, just make sure you're reaching out 5 times to each guest. Okay. Now, also with Guesty has such a better financial reporting. In Airbnb, if you have one property, it's great. It's fine. Once you get more than one property, their financial statements stink, and it's really hard to work with trying to figure out which property is which. They're improving this, and I've seen they've started to make steps on this. However, it's still not where it needs to be, and so Guesty has a better reporting system, okay? Also, cleaning reports. This is where it communicates directly with my cleaning team of where and when they need to be cleaning, okay? So that is super, super helpful so that you don't need to be texting, you don't need to be coordinating. As soon as a new guest pays and is confirmed, then it sends a text, it sends an email, it puts it on the schedule. So it really, really helps with that. Okay. And then a website for your listings. You know how earlier, way back, like hours ago, when we were talking about having repeat customers, Guesty offers, you can also use a system like Lodgify, but Guesty has like all of this put together. So if you want to shop around, Lodgify has a place that you can create your own website. There's places where you can get cleaning coordination. There's places where you can get financials. For me, Guesty was the best fit that had everything under one house, okay? Smart B&B has some of these things, but not all of them. So just shop around, see what works best for you. But for me, it was Guesty. So it has the website for your listings where they can go directly to your website for your area, and they can type in the dates and it will show what you have available. This is also super, super, super important. You have to have your own website, I would say, if you're trying to get into corporate housing, if you're trying to get into traveling nurses, if you're trying to get in with flight attendants, if you're trying to fill in your weekdays and getting into those three sources, you're going to have your own booking site. Otherwise, you're saying, oh, please come stay at my place. Go look at me on Airbnb where there's 500 other options. I mean, guys, come on. So you're going to need to set up your own website for your listings, okay? And you can do that using Guesty. Now, I said there were 2 levels of Guesty. This is all included in the first level. And they've changed their prices a little bit, so definitely look it up to see what it is currently. At one point when we did this, it was 3% for this first level. However, I believe there's also an option that you can do $60 per month per property. So see what your income is on the property and see which works better for you. But then the second level is where they handle all of your communication, okay? So if they are asking about the Wi-Fi password and they message that, then you would need this higher level for them to write back with that. And it's so cool because as soon as they ask me something, they put it in the notes so I will never get asked about that again. For instance, I see that there's a pool, but I can't find it. I have a picture of a map that sends them there. That's already in the welcome letters that are posted in there. So I either say, oh, you can check out the welcome book, or also here's a picture for you. And so the first time I sent that kind of thing, it saves it in Guesty, and so the next time I get asked that question, they automatically do it. Okay, so it's artificial intelligence practically that keeps on growing its brain. Every time I respond to something, it gets saved. And so you'll find as you go along with a new property, less and less and less you'll hear from your guests because all those questions are the same that they've been for a year, 2 years, 3 years. Okay, so that's another awesome thing about Guesty. So let's see, and there is a $1,000 setup fee that they walk you through everything that really gets you up and going. Which to me, at first I was like, ugh, $1,000, because I'm kind of a cheapskate, guys. Remember, I have issues with spending money and risking money, and but with this, $1,000 was definitely worth it. They take you step by step by step on how to get set up your messaging, all of it. Okay. Also, they sometimes say that you must have 5 properties to be able to get to that higher level, that chat feature. However, if you ask for an exception and you only have 2 or 3, I've definitely seen it done. So don't be scared off by them saying that there's only 5 properties, okay? Now, I often, whenever I speak, get the question of what is the typical amount of time needed each week to manage one property? Then how much does that increase with additional properties? Okay, and my answer is, well, it's like having kids. Okay, the first is the hardest, and it's like, oh my goodness, what happened to my life? Then you add a second, it's like, okay, we've got this. And then when you have number 3, it's like, oh my goodness, we have to switch from a man-to-man and go to zone defense. This is out of control. So when you get your third property, that's definitely when you've got to get a guestie. You've got to get some sort of front desk help so it's not taking over your life. Okay? Because then for me at 3, it's like, all right, I'm going to burn out unless I get some help. Okay, so the first 1 or 2, if you wanted to keep the control, that's fine. But then at number 3, switch it over. Okay, now as for actually how much time per property, it's kind of hard to say because it kind of varies and it's all kind of lumped in together. But my tips for this are: 1, make sure that you've synced with a dynamic pricing tool like we talked in a previous module as soon as possible to maximize your pricing. Okay, that's going to really help eliminate any worries of, am I charging the right amount or whatever. As soon as you decide to start paying to sync that really helps. And then at 3 or 4 properties, get the front desk platform, which for me is Guesty. And then I would say it's about 2 hours per week for your first 5 properties, and then you can scale it after that, and it stays around that 2 to 4 hours a week. Sometimes even less than that. Sometimes once you really scale it out, I've had weeks that I really literally do nothing for my property management business, my Airbnb business, because everything is just running like the well-oiled machine it is. Okay, so if you've set up your systems, that could be as low as 0, but I don't want to paint false impressions that it's always going to be 0. So definitely it's going to take a couple hours a week. Now, setting up the Airbnb, that takes over your life, okay? And in fact, when I set up an Airbnb, remember when we were talking about how, okay, I know I want to open one in 2 to 3 weeks. I know I've blocked out 3 days to find the property. Well, when you get closer to that 2 to 3 weeks, when I say that, it's because as the mother of 5 kids with an amazing husband, that's when I have to coordinate with him and be like, okay, when is it okay for me not to be around for 3 to 5 days? Because when you set up a property, it's going to take you 3 to 5 days. It's going to be shopping, it's going to be utilities, it's going to be all the different things to set up a property, that it will be very busy while you set up the property for 3 to 5 business days, I would say. Okay. But other than that, once you get it set up, it really can be so super duper passive, okay? Now here's an example of a week with 5 properties when I did not have Guesty, okay? So here's what it looked like. First, I had 4 people book stays plus 2 injured. I don't know what that is for a stay. I had to, sorry, that says inquired. 4 people booked stays and then 2 inquired for a stay. I had to click to approve. Okay, so there's 2 different ways that people can book your property. They can either book it or they can inquire about the booking. Okay, now I do set up auto Instabook. Okay, people ask me that all the time. I do Instabook, but I also take advantage of the 24 hours or whatever it is that you can say no to somebody if you don't feel comfortable with their booking. Okay, there are consequences to that, so make sure you look into that. But I do use Instabook, but still sometimes people will inquire about a booking. So sometimes I'll have to look at their reviews, see if they have negative reviews. On a side note, one of the other cool things that Guesty does is when somebody inquires or somebody books, they look at their reviews and they'll notify me and say, hey, we have somebody that's booked. They have 7 positive reviews and 1 negative review. And then they'll post the negative review and say, are you still okay with this person in your property? How cool is that? I didn't have to do anything. It came directly to my text or email and said, you know, do you still want to approve them? And to me, that's something I would always approve if it's just 1 negative out of 7 or something like that. Now, if it's 1 out of 2, let's question it. Let's look at it. And so anyways, something cool that Guesty does. Okay, but so back to 5 properties without Guesty. I also had 1 foreign exchange student ask if they could rent for 4 months, so I had to research what kind of discount I wanted to apply and then communicate with her. I suggested we get a hotel. One guest suggested that we get a hotel deadbolt, and I thanked them. We already have a lock and a deadbolt, but they wanted an extra hotel lock, so I thanked them for that. One said the lock wasn't working, so I directed them to the emergency hidden lock box that's on the property, and then I paid the cleaning lady for 7 cleanings, okay? Now here's the example with Guesty, okay? So they notified me of 3 early check-ins. They notified me of 2 positive reviews. Just a note on the early check-ins also, I charge for early check-ins $10 per hour, and they're only allowed to do it if there's no checkout or check-in the same day, but that allows us to just earn a little extra bonus in there. They asked what kind of coffee we use. The note was saved, like I talked about, in Guesty, and so the next time they automatically know that. I was notified of a negative review with recommendations. Lockbox was jams, and I told them to bang it on the door to get it loosed. That note was then saved so they can use it in the future if it happens a little anymore. And then I paid the cleaning lady for 7 cleanings, okay? So all of these, you'll notice though, I was notified. So all those things, I was not the gate that had to open to let things proceed. So when I go on a cruise and I don't have access to my phone, Guesty keeps things running through the gate, okay? Without Guesty, things have to go through me to move along as I'd like them to. With Guesty, they just make it happen and they can flow through without it. Does that make sense? So it just really turns it into something that is not going to take over your life, which is awesome. Awesome, awesome. All right, let's see. All right, that's the last one of this slide. Thank you so much. Stay tuned. We've got a little bit more, so we'll see you in a second.